some people are still out of power and are waiting for that to return. I think David and Norm bought a generator just to be ready for tonight in case something happened. I really appreciate them joining us, and they'll be our special presenters in just a moment. I don't think I see any new faces. We all know the drill. The purpose of this forum is to help us become better disciples and better disciple makers. And I'd like to open up with storytelling. Does anyone have a story you'd like to share about encountering a stranger over this past week or two, or maybe helping your child in some way become a better disciple or disciple maker? Anyone want to encourage us with a word of how you're doing in your journey?
I don't know if this qualifies in the category of what you want here, but besides the two most influential in making me a disciple, the two men, my father-in-law and a neighbor down the street who taught me the gospel, the one that really got me on the road to disciple making was my mother-in-law. We were in Germany for 3 years. We got married in June and we were in Germany in January, and we stayed 3 years. And while we were there, I was on my own. And she sent me stuff to read. She sent me stuff to encourage me. And I had never led a public prayer when we went to Germany. And she was so encouraging in trying to help me go beyond those initial ordinances to what a disciple is, help me to be a better disciple. We buried her last Friday, and I'm touched by her.
Sounds like she lived a meaningful life.
She did.
That's wonderful. That makes a great point, Norm. I think this would be a good time to share those kinds of stories. Does anyone else have a story of a mentor who discipled you? For me, I mean, the first one who comes to my mind is my dad. I mean, he took me everywhere with him in ministry. I've been to the hospital, the prison, the nursing home, the pulpit with him. He's taught me everything I know about ministry and about being a Christian. And so I appreciate him starting me on this path, and I still call him quite frequently just to ask him advice on how to stay on this path of ministry. Anyone else have a mentor that has influenced you? I know Paul is here, but you can still talk about him if you want to. Gwen, go ahead.
I do. The students, and I shared this with the ladies in our group one time, but the students, Jerry and Fern Hill, who with the Timothy Hill Children's Ranch, when they were college students, before they really were even dating, came to our little church in Russell, and Jerry preached there. And I was baptized, several members of my family were, and over 60 years, they have continued to write letters to me. Of course, you know, after all this time we visited, I've been in their home many times. I spent a year there in their home in Riverhead, and you know, they're like parents to me now. But the thing, you know, that I keep thinking of so often is the commitment to never leave me. And all these years they have been there for me, and that's the way they are with everyone, but thousands of miles away from me, but you know, always there, always mentoring.
Wow. I mean, these are the kinds of stories that, as Carl said in one of the sessions, should remind us of how we can disciple. Just by thinking about how we were discipled, we can begin to help somebody else. And so I hope you'll, if you haven't spent much time thinking about the mentors in your life, hope you will. And I hope you'll talk about them and then begin to do what they did for you, for somebody else, which is what we're trying to do in this forum. So tonight, I'm really excited. We've got Norm Stone and David Bangs with us to talk to us about caring and sharing, something that I've been to a few times now. I'm curious for our poll question tonight. I won't type it up, but just by a show of hands for those who are on video, and if you're not, you're welcome to unmute yourself and say so. But how many of you have visited or helped in some way with caring and sharing? Okay. Wonderful. And if you haven't, like I said, I've done it a few times. It is a well-oiled machine. I mean, they have it going so well that when I got there, I was able to find a few places to help out. But there's so many people who want to help and so many people to be helped that it's just one of our best ministries, I think, at College Church and probably all in Searcy as a whole. And so I'm excited to learn more about it. And just out of curiosity, David and Norm, where did that title come from, caring and sharing? Do you know?
It came from Eddie. We first did it on a Thursday night, and that was kind of that was just what we wanted to do is care about others and share the message with them. And Eddie would always use the term, we'll start small and fizzle up. Now, I don't know how that come up and how that stuck, but that's what he'd always say. And, you know, we always fizzle out, but we don't fizzle up. So he's very positive, and I guess if you were talking about mentors, I guess he would be one of those for me in that way. Strong visionary and all those things there. Implementation, I guess he goes and gets people to help put in the implementation. That's where we come in, I guess.
I'm sure Eddie's name will come up again in your presentation, but I know that David and Norm have videos show us. They have some PowerPoint. I'm just going to turn it over to them now and let them share with us anything and everything they want to about caring and sharing.
2008, Susan and I walked North Turner Street, inviting people to the first caring and sharing meal. We had a simple idea, share food and the gospel with our neighbors. Early on, I solicited the help of David Bangs, and he has become one of the strong influences in making caring and sharing what it is today.
Yep, my calendar's pretty full, but I always make time for Monday night caring and sharing. What are you doing this Monday night?
I come in, I put out the Bibles, songbooks, prayer request cards and pencils, salt shakers.
I primarily do most of the ordering and preparing the menus. We make a meal just like we would want to feed to our families.
When we open the doors on Monday nights for our guests to come in, we try to make them feel welcome, find out if we can help them in any way.
During the assembly, they receive a gospel presentation from a competent speaker.
They reach out to the community and they share a blessing, which is the Word of God.
Somebody loved me enough to tell me the gospel. I feel the same obligation.
We're generally prepared for 150. Sometimes we give away a little extra.
Go online and they fix our plates, and then we go and sit and we fellowship.
I know a lot of these folks, and they know me.
Family, like family, you know? So we all come together as one big family.
We circulate, we talk to people, we try to find out who's interested.
I get to know them a bit, and I offer a personal Bible study.
The Faith Foundations class is a class that's used to teach those who are converted through the ministry to help new Christians learn what it is to be a Christian.
If they can help, they'll help, or they'll direct you in the right path that does it.
But we do need new people to get involved.
I've learned there's joy in service. The joy is in working with people who love God and who are compassionate and who are unselfish. It's very inspiring.
After 9 years and over 200 baptisms, we've reached a lot of neighbors. So what are you doing Monday evenings?
I know what we're going to be doing on Monday evening.
We're going to caring and sharing.
Thanks, Nick, for putting that on there. We will, let me go ahead and share my screen here, and if you will let me have that.
There it is, right in the middle.
I don't think that's it. This is what I want right here.
Oh, you have to double click on it. There you go.
You're good to go.
Can you see the screen, the presentation? Give me a thumbs up.
No, there we go. It's coming on now. Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. So this is a little slide presentation that we put together that kind of gives an overview of caring and sharing and talks about what you can expect when you attend one of these things. And so I've added the tagline, we're caring for our neighbors by sharing the gospel. That is the primary intent of this program. And I know David has what he wants to say about this. Go ahead, David.
Well, this was just the way it came together. And when the first time, I hadn't been here but 2 months, when Eddie says, we got a group putting this together, and we're considering calling it this, and we'd like to do the planning on it. Can you meet up here on Wednesday night in room 221? And I said, sure. And so I got there about 7 o'clock, went up the stairs, and Eddie's sitting on the other end of the table there, and I walk in, and he said, I said, am I early? Where's everybody at? He said, no, you're right on time. And I said, well, where's everybody at? He said, well, we just doubled. And so that was the start of it, and that's the optimism in Eddie, and that this is where we're going to go at. So, and there's a lot more I could tell you about that, but that was where it really started, and that's where the name came from, and so many others have been involved in it throughout. And but go ahead.
And I will just say that Eddie is a great visionary, but he's also a great recruiter. And so he stopped me on a Wednesday night in the auditorium and said, what are you doing on Thursday nights? That's when we first started to do this, was on Thursday nights. And he invited me to come. The first time I came, I wandered around the building and couldn't find an open door and went home. So I didn't let that discourage me, but this was sometime in December. It was a little cold out. So went home, but I tried again the next week, and I talked to Eddie, and we got it straightened out, and I found out which door I could go in. But I've been involved since late 2008 is when I started doing this. But again, it's caring for our neighbors by sharing the gospel. And so I think my slide advancer should work. It's on. Okay.
Here, we'll just do this like that.
Okay. So I've just a little bit of history here, and you've already seen the video. And so that was prepared by John Williams. Was that a year and a half ago that he put?
Yeah, 2018. And one thing about caring and sharing, we have been put in the ministries of we feel like we are a mission field, and we've always preached that to everybody that we come in contact with, but we still get put into benevolence for some reason. And now there's benevolent activity that we do, and there's work that we do there, but our primary goal has always been mission work and disciple making. So this is a great fit for this forum that we have today. Go ahead.
And so in 2008, when Eddie and Susan started this, they saw this as an extension of their own personal table fellowship. They were already doing this on a personal level, but at their home. And what he thought is, well, why don't we do this on a larger scale? Why don't we replicate this and multiply this so that we reach more people? And he started. This is how he pitched it to me. He said that those living in the shadow of our building deserve to hear the gospel. That's what he said. And so we embarked on this journey by just thinking about those neighborhoods around the church building and how we could influence them and that way. And then we worked over time, worked to expand the reach of the effort. And we partnered with His House. They are open on Mondays and Thursdays, and they generate a lot of leads. And so one of the things we did was prepare a little information flyer that they could hand out to folks that visited His House so that they could get, on Monday night, and that's what I'll just refer to it as Monday night now, because that's where what we're doing now. But we started partnering with His House, but we also have partnered with the jail ministry and prison ministry as an outlet for those that get out of incarceration, whether it's short-term or long-term, that the folks working in those ministries let them know about caring and sharing in Searcy, and we get folks fresh out of jail or fresh out of prison. We do have that. Of course, we're linked to the school supply drive, and we pass out flyers during that time. People are invited to come to that. They're told about it. The holiday outreach program, all of that. Those other ministries that are designed maybe have a benevolent or a gospel sharing purpose. We want to link to those because we want to generate contacts and get them to the building. We also did early on. We also did a lot of door knocking, and we walked in the neighborhoods, in the trailer park that's across off of Turner Street, across Moore. We walked all that area. We knocked on doors. We invited folks, and we went through all the neighborhoods around and just spent Saturdays knocking doors and inviting people to come. And so that was an initial effort that has been supplanted by what we get through the other ministries now. And so we don't do the door knocking like we used to. Maybe we need to reinvigorate that. But we get plenty of contacts through His House and the other ministries at the College Church.
And they will invite one another, and we allow them to do that. We say, bring some of your friends. It's okay to do that, which is a little bit unusual in that, now it pretty well, we don't knock doors, but I can tell you those folks that live within a stone's throw of the building that live there. I know Lois Clay is a great example. She lived in the trailer houses at the far back on that far end there. And she said, I lived here for 13 years and never knew this place existed. And we baptized her. She was one of the very first ones we baptized. We started the ministry in October, and in April, she was our first baptism. And then it took off. And we just had plenty of those. It just started happening big time. And she was one who had been married a couple of times, and both of them were pretty well drunks, and she had been beaten a number of times. She found the church, and she found a new life. And she passed away, and maybe 2 or 3, 4 years, and but she found a home, and she found Christ, and so many other stories. I could go on. Go ahead.
Another thing about Lois Clay, she was one of our early converts, and it wasn't long before she sensed the idea, I need to be contacting people. And so she asked that somebody take our invitation card that we had and translate it into Spanish, because a lot of her neighbors in the trailer park where she lived were Hispanic. And she went around inviting people to come, and we started kind of this Hispanic class for our Hispanic neighbors. and they had a separate class. They would go up during the devotional, had their own class, and then come down and meet with us. And that was her doing. And she was a new convert. It was really special. And so just to kind of cover what it is we do and what our objectives are, is our first objective is we want to teach the gospel. We want to get our neighbors acquainted with the gospel message. It is good news and we need to tell it. And so that's the first primary objective. I'm not saying that benevolence isn't a great segue into this, but that's not our primary objective. Our primary objective is to teach the gospel. So every meeting of Caring and Sharing has a gospel theme. And that's really an important component of this. And of course, we want to extend fellowship to our neighbors. We wanted to, College Church is a big church. It's named the College Church. And so it's kind of intimidating to the people who live around our building. And so we wanted to put a face on the College Church of Christ. We wanted to put a face on it. And that was one of the things we wanted to do. Let's get them in, let's sit down with them over a meal, and let's fellowship together. And so that's an important component of this. It helps facilitate the teaching of the gospel if you can be hospitable with them.
And our fellowship room back there is a wonderful place right there, because they come in and they feel comfortable there. Now, do they feel comfortable out in the auditorium? Not unless they're sitting with someone, because like Norm said, that is somewhat intimidating, even to get around in our building when you first come in. So that's another factor, is embracing these folks here, because they do fit scriptural. It is New Testament. It is New Testament in working in its purest form right there.
So, and another goal is to serve the community, to provide some kind of service to the community, and it's two components. It's spiritual and physical. And so, of course, we want to feed them spiritually, but we also want to provide a meal. One night, I was talking to David as we were watching folks go through the line, and he made the remark to me that for some of these people that are here, this is probably the best meal they'll have all week. And it is a good meal. That's not to downplay the meal. It is a good meal, but it's probably the clientele, if you want to call it that, not clients, the people that come are typically not well off financially, and so they don't have the benefit of a well-prepared meal. And that's what we do in this. So it's a spiritual feast, but it serves them physically. And I would say it doesn't end with the meal, because we're sitting at the table and we identify needs there, and where we can satisfy those needs, we've done that. And so that's been a part of this as well. And I think that was one of it when we initially started this Love Cersei campaign, was one of the things that somebody adopt a family that needs. And there's plenty of opportunity here at this to not enable bad behavior, but to serve and identify and serve physical needs that need to be done. And, the last one, again, is an extension of that. Provide for those in need, the meal and other services that the church can provide. I mean, we make the statement each week that this ministry, what they're getting that night satisfies this one thing, a meal. But we point them to other services and that we provide, his house and the Great Physicians Clinic and all those kinds of things that are talked about during the presentation on each evening. David is very good at memorializing that aspect of it. But it goes beyond that meeting that night. We're really trying to get them acquainted with other services that they can take advantage of, not the least of which is come worship with us on Sunday. Did you have any other? So what does it look like? If you haven't been there, here's kind of what it looks like. Registration, the doors open at 6 p.m. on Monday night. And registration takes place between 6 p.m. and 6:30, where people get in line and we get their name and their phone numbers and addresses and the kid's name, whatever vital information we get so we can follow up. But that's captured during this 30-minute period. At 6:30, the doors are closed and locked. Okay, we don't want people just showing up for the meal. And so when at 6:30, we close and lock the door. And that's when the meeting starts. And David is our MC. He is really good at it. And he's really welcoming, and he's got good rapport. It comes across very well from the microphone, and it's really effective to get us going. So he does our welcome and he does our announcement. That begins promptly at 6:30, and that lasts from 3 to 5 minutes. He'll give the basic structure of the meeting for those that are new, and make any announcements that need to be made. This is followed by our devotional period, and this is key, I think, that it starts with the devotional period. It doesn't start with a meal and then the devotional period. We have the devotional period, and it lasts about 25 minutes, and it includes 2 songs. That's been our pattern. And Glenn Ulrey, 93-year-old Glenn Ulrey, leads our singing, and it's great. He's still active in trying to be a participant in this. He loves to do that. Then there's a devotional presentation that lasts, we say, 10 to 12 minutes. When Dr. Gaines was doing it, it was always 10 or 12 minutes, but it could go 20. But it's it. Nobody ever complained. And then we'll have a prayer. I'll talk more about that later. At the end, we'll have a prayer, and then David will return to the microphone with invitations to other things, other services, and of course Sunday morning worship and Bible class, and reminders of details that have to be, housekeeping chores and things like that. That's done, and then people are dismissed to get in line for the meal, and the meal follows from about 7 p.m. to about 8:15, I would say.
And that's probably involved cleanup too.
Yeah, that includes cleanup. They start cleaning up as people finish their meals and start leaving. I mean, there's quite a bit of things that have to be taken care of to get the building back in shape.
And that shows that, we prioritize the message in front of the meal. And we talk about, we're going to give you a physical meal, but the most important is your spiritual meal. And most of you that's been there, you've heard me say that more time and time again. So I think we rang true to that throughout.
We do, on occasion, host special observances, special meals throughout the year. We haven't done it consistently each year on each of these days, but we've had a Valentine's Day meal. We've had a Mother's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, and a holiday banquet. We haven't done, I think we've done the holiday banquet most consistently.
Yeah.
But the other days we've done it. I wouldn't say intermittently. It's probably the best way to say that. And the reason that is, it involves a lot of preparation, and we try to involve the entire congregation. Invitations are given to everybody so that they can invite their friends and that kind of stuff. And we've had our largest turnouts during these special observances. I think
357.
357 was the max in our family room on this. And that involved a lot of college church members, but it was overwhelming response. And we're telling those that regularly attend Caring and Sharing to bring their friends. And so we tell them to do that. And so we've had it. But I think Steve mentioned in the video that the standard kind of attendance is around, they plan for about 150. And so that's typical. Sometimes it's light. First of the month, it tends to be lighter. End of the month, it tends to be heavier.
Yeah, yeah. Because the needs are there.
The needs are there. Okay. We have a lot of different speakers that speak, but to simplify the coordination of this thing, Caring and Sharing established a rotation of regular speakers. So, Cliff Gaines would always speak the third Monday of the month and that kind of stuff. Tom Alexander the fourth Monday. We had I'll let David go through the list of folks, but these were on the regular rotation, and only if there was going to be an absence or some other issue or there was a special occasion would we include others. I think Noel was scheduled always for the fifth Monday.
Yeah, and Cheryl picked up in there, and then he got involved more with World Bible School too.
Yeah.
So World Bible School, we integrate with that too as well. So that's a good strong piece that we use.
But I noticed Paul Pollard's in our audience tonight. Paul has been a regular speaker, not on a monthly basis, but he's featured as a special guest speaker. David has been a guest speaker. I've been a guest speaker. They're really drugging. Well, Norm, can you do it? We couldn't find anybody else, so I've done that. So, but it's and they present good gospel lessons. Cliff Gaines would typically do themes, and he'd do it for 2 or 3 months. He'll follow up and do those kind of things. Tom Alexander provides very practical lessons, as does Don England. Bill White, when he was alive, he talked. They loved him because he told stories in connection with what he was doing. And Cheryl Bennett is new to the rotation, and of course we all know Noel. He also does a great job. And then again, a variety of other men from time to time are presented on Monday night. So let me just talk a little bit about results. And it's not about the results, but we like to see that there's fruit being harvested here. But the big thing is each Monday night, the gospel is taught to those who have never heard it. That's a big deal. That's what we're charged to do. We're not responsible for the salvation of them, but we are responsible for sowing the seed. And so that's first priority. The gospel is going to be taught on Monday night. And so that's one of the things that happens. But out of this and out of the table fellowship that happens, we have one-on-one Bible classes, and they've been taught in a number of ways. We about year 3, we started an augmentation of Caring and Sharing by having Thursday night Bible classes. And those were by invitation only. We would invite people who expressed an interest to come, and then we would have one-on-one Bible classes. There might be 10. We'd meet in room 100. There would also be a meal served, but there would be sometimes as many as 10 or 12 Bible classes going on in that room, one-on-one or very small groups, and just walking through. And we've used the Bible as what we're teaching, or tools like the Open Bible Study, or Ian Terry's got his own study materials that follow basically the Open Bible Study outline, but a little simpler. And there's other materials. Carolyn Kenny uses other tools to reach people, and she's very effective at doing that. Okay. Uh-oh, I lost my, you have to click back on over here. You have to click on the screen. All right. As was mentioned in the video, 250 now have been baptized. And there are some other statistics that we need to include. There's been, to my knowledge, at least 3 weddings out of Caring and Sharing. I know that there's been one vow renewal to a couple that have been married 35 years. Who are recently baptized. You might have met them, Lori and Dallas Eckert. That happened. They were baptized about a year ago. They've been very faithful. We've had several funerals. Lois Clay, I think, was the first one, and I was honored to do the eulogy at that funeral. And there was probably 7,500 people in room 100. For that. It was well attended. She was well liked.
And let me tell you, when we were knocking doors on early in there, we had some folks that we talked to. I'll give you one in particular, and her name was Sissy Owens. We go to this person's house. Eddie had gone there, and it was a duplex, And they knock on the door and they say, yeah, I'll come to the meeting. I'll come to your meeting. But this woman next door over here, you need to get there now, because she's supposed to live. She's only going to live 2 more years or 2 more months. And we baptized her in about 3 weeks, and she passed away in about 2 months. And her name was Sissy Owens. And from that, we baptized her brother, 2 brothers, and some more in the family. And they continued to come. Helen Miller's another one that 2 years, she lasted with us 2 years, but she had a faith that was unreal. And when we went to see her in the hospital when she was passing, she said, I'm hoping to, maybe I won't be here next week. I'm hoping not to be here. She said, I'm so ready to go. Carolyn knows this, and some others on here know that, Charles and Ricardo Burns, it was in some of those pictures there with Dr. Gaines and Bill White. There were all 3 of them in that picture together. And all 3 of them are gone now from last year. So it is a family, and many of you who've been there, know that. Edwin, you're there, and Charles and Faye, and each one has a different thing to do. That's what's so good about it. Jordan, you mentioned something about it's a well-oiled machine. Well, everyone knows where they, what they need to do, and when they walk in, they feel like my role is important. That's what they come in and they say, my role to sign people in is very important to this mission. And it is, because without those folks doing those things there, the person can't sit down at the table. And I'll get to that a little bit later here, because I got one other point I want to bring up at the very end. Scott, you're here, you're on this too as well. You've set in for us on some of this, so you understand, and it blesses our lives. It is a blessing to each of us as much as it is to those folks. And I think one of the things that we give these folks here is dignity and respect. And they just do not know what that is sometimes. They do not get that in this world. This world is hard on them. And, y'all know Ronnie, don't you? You remember Ronnie? Ronnie and his mother had come. Darren just went to see him the other day and took him home from the hospital, and he's doing well now. But I just miss those folks, and this COVID stuff is just really hard on all of us right now. But I'll tell you, I miss loving on these folks, and this is fun to do, and it's a blessing to me, and I know it's a blessing to many of you who've done that. And go ahead. I'll get quiet a minute.
The last thing is that we started a Bible class for those who were baptized and those who identified with the church at College Church. And so we started a Bible class. We call it the Faith Foundations class. And David and I co-teach that. And we have a really good little group. It's not a big group, but it is a group that has stayed faithful over the years. And I enjoy teaching that class, and we have a good time in it, and we study the Bible in there. And so they're growing in their knowledge of the Bible, and that's good. And those who don't come, we do, Cheryl gets a lot of signups for the World Bible School stuff, and they enroll a lot, and we've given away several Bibles to those that have completed that material. So they're getting more than just the devotional on Monday night. Those that enroll in the WBS course and finish it are getting more than just that. They're hearing more about the church and those kinds of things. So let's just talk about the volunteer staffing that we need for this. And this is all volunteer. We have a kitchen staff that's responsible for 2 things, meal preparation and cleanup. And so that's a very intensive thing. And what's the average age of our kitchen staff? This is a great statistic here.
I have no idea, but James and Johnny Mackey are in there, and Mike Caldwell's in that group, and I could start naming. And Leah called me. I think she moved in here from, I forget where, but she called me out of the blue and said, I understand. She said, I'm a pretty good cook, I think. People have told me that, and I really need some work I need to do some work in my area that God's given me a talent to do. And oh my, she is talented. And people like that, and just like Gwen's on here right now, Gwen Anderson, who helps with the nursery. I mean, we can't function without each one of those links being taken care of. And I don't know. In fact, Charles drives a bus, and John Williams drives a bus, and then we have some others that pinch hit and drive a bus. And I'll go ahead. I'll get taken off. I'm an old coach, okay?
Yeah.
So I try to motivate, and then I'm an old principal too. So I'm used to handling the middle school or high school cafeteria. So you know, that's kind of what this is sometimes.
I'm just old. So
He said that.
so we have a group, and the kitchen staff, when they're not in the kitchen, are typically out on the server line. But we have, you know, it's a big deal. We have it broken down into the main entree, a dessert line, and the drink line. So that's all been prepared, but we have a need for servers all the time. And this is where you get to meet everybody that comes. It's a really good role to be in as a server, a greeter. Put a face on the College Church of Christ. There's reception and registration. We have 4 tables set up to receive people from 6 to 6:30. And Carolyn Kenny, I think, is involved in this a lot. But also Lee Bost and Faye Moore and Deanna Brooks. Those are all people who are involved with the reception, and it rotates, and it's week to week it might be different, but somebody's at the table to greet people as they come, to register, get their names and vital information, and to put a smile on in front of them, and that's really good. There's Carolyn. Hi, Carolyn. And then we need people sitting at the tables. We need table fellowship leaders. That's what I call it. So somebody to sit and listen and talk and engage. That really needs to be done here, because it's not just about the meal. We need to get Christians in front of people who need to hear the gospel, and this is the way to do it, is to sit with people at the table. Somebody you don't know, somebody who has a lot of issues, but somebody who needs to hear the gospel. And then following this is we need a room set up, and that's usually taken care of on Sunday night. And then clean up after the meal. So there's vacuuming and cleaning of the kitchen. The kitchen crew tends to take care of the cleanup, but the rest of the building needs to be set back in order, put all the tables and chairs away and all that kind of stuff. And so you usually get out of there by, I would say 8:30, 8:45. And then the last is the child care. And it's not last, there's lots of other things that happen too. But child care is a big need. One of the things we want to provide is a distraction-free environment for the adults to listen. And the best way to do that is to separate them from their children for a few minutes. And they gladly do this, most of them. And so they're happy to turn their children over, and they sit out, and the children are provided for separately. They get a separate meal, and so that's a big enterprise, and we have Linda Ulrey is helping us organize that. So let's quickly, going forward, what are we going to do? We've suspended meetings in March due to COVID-19, and so we haven't been meeting. That's been a real vacuum. Okay, there's really it's been hard on those who are dedicated to doing this. So when are we going to get back? When are we going to get back? But so here's what we're thinking. We're anticipating a stage resumption starting on August 31st. And what we mean by that is that we're not going to open up the building, because we don't think that that's a great idea. But we're going to provide our own drive-through meals. Steve has come up with the idea of creating boxed meals with some kind of spiritual message contained in that, and that as the cars drive by, offer to pray, engage the folks in the car, those kinds of things, to get this jump started again and get people in the habit of, on Monday night we go to Caring and Sharing. And so that's, we want to start doing that on August 31st, and we're making plans for that now. Full restart in the building, don't know. It's just too many unknowns at this point. So here's what we need. We need kitchen staff. Steve Cooper made the point that most of our kitchen staff is elderly. The average age to be in the kitchen staff, I think, is like 72. So, and I know like John East Hearn is 85 or 86, and she's there working, and she's a server, and she's bringing meals out. It's, you know, but we're going to need to replace some people. Some people after we resume full building implementation of this, some may feel that they are not up to it anymore, and so we'll need to replace that. Child care staff, led by Linda Ulrey. I forgot the Linda there, but she's constantly in need of folks helping. And then we all need one-on-one Bible class teachers. We have a bunch involved already in that. We've had, Dee Boss was a great, Carolyn Kenny is great doing this, but we need more that are good at one-on-one Bible studies.
Okay, so now let's take that tagline and go to the next place right here, and that is one thing that Carl Williamson said, and that was blessed. He said, begin with prayer. He's trying to coach us in disciple making. And y'all remember the very first lesson that he had was bless. He said, begin with prayer, learn to listen, eat and demonstrate hospitality, serve, and then share stories. Not stories.
Oh, stories, yeah.
Yeah. And caring and sharing does this. We begin with prayer cards. We begin with that. That's how we begin. When they're sitting in there and you sit down with the table with them at that from 6 to 6:30, you give them a yellow card and they fill that. They will fill as many as we can put on the table. And we have to reduce it sometimes because we don't have enough time to go over all of them. But they love to have their name announced either on the card or, you know, but just knowing that they're going to be prayed for. And then listening at each table during that fellowship. So we just didn't put it in an acronym. Okay, so Carl, he come over and looked at what we were doing, I guess, and put it in an acronym because this is what we do. Then we eat a meal together, and we serve our neighbors, and then we share stories and a biblical message, and then we pray again, and we have so this is all part of what we've been doing, and I want to commend Alan and Deb Hardison because they've been on this Thursday night call every time, and they came from the disciple making ministries and just come out of that room upstairs on Monday night and come right down to us, and they have taken off in this. In fact, last Sunday, I know they brought a guest to church last Sunday, and they're putting this to action. And about a couple of weeks ago, I did the shepherd's prayer at the end of services, and I mentioned this right here because it was dealing with our individual responsibility. And I think some of the things that we do here and with all the ministries, I said there's 4 eyes, and I mentioned interconnectedness. And that's what this ministry does. We use all the other ministries, and we connect with them, and we connect together, and we want to be part of that. And then there's intentionality, being intentional in our work. You know, when we look at that, Carolyn is asking, and Charles, Charles, all of us, we're asking, who have I studied with this week? How many lessons do I have? You know, let's hold one another accountable and do those things. And that's what this ministry does right now with this disciple making. So we want to make that connected with this. And then the interconnectedness, intentionality, and involvement. Those are some very important pieces right there. So I just think that's it. And then being intentional in that, and then our individual responsibility. Let's take on that individual responsibility. Now, this is difficult right now with this COVID stuff. I did take someone home about an hour ago that I picked up on the road, and he had one of those legs that was going out to the side every time he'd walk, and he was sweating, and he was having trouble. and he was headed over to government housing, and so I just stopped and picked him up. Now I had picked him up one other time, and I got his number, and he wanted to study the Bible, and I said, I called him back, but he wasn't able. He never did pick up, and I guess he was scared about the number. But I made sure he had it this time, and so we're going to talk some more. So those are some things there. I think being intentional, and that's my responsibility. I saw him there, and I need to do something about it. So those are some things there that I think are very, very important. And I think we covered just about it. I know Charles Rayleigh and Harriet, they work with us on Monday night as well, and they work with his house. And then the WBC, the White World Bible School, those things are there. And Edwin, he wasn't here 2 weeks, and he was back there serving in the line. So we will find a place for you. Let me just say that. And we welcome you. And I don't know if you come to us what you'll be doing. You decide that. God will put you in the chain where you're needed most. But if you're not using your talent, it's like I said about the relay. We're all running this relay. And if we don't run our part of the relay, it don't finish. And people are missed, and people are lost, and we don't do our part. But God's given us a talent, and we're part of the link. So let's make that baton go all the way around, and let's take care of what we need to. That's all I have. Norm?
Well, we've kind of left 3 minutes for Q&A.
Sorry about that.
And Jordan, you can tell we really rehearsed this. So anyway, we're happy to take questions.
Yeah, you've answered most of my questions, so I'm just going to turn it over to the forum. What questions do y'all have?
One question I had was, how far out do we extend this? Is this mainly in Searcy, or do the buses, when we are able to run them, do they go out into other areas, or what's kind of the parameters for that?
Charles can tell you that, but most of the time we stay within the Searcy area right here. But there is a few on the fringes there that maybe they get here and we have to get them to Judge Sonia or to wherever. That's been a few times. Or some of our individual members will go ahead and take them on home because that might be an outlier. But we will, if someone comes from White County or wherever they come from, we've had them from BB, we've had them from Heber to come. We will work with them and serve.
That's good.
But as far as getting them, we run usually, Charles, we usually run 2 vans, and sometimes they'll make 2 trips each. So
that's good. Okay, good. Thanks.
Other questions or comments?
I guess we did good.
Yeah.
Where does the food come from?
Oh, good question. We started out, there were restaurants that wanted to donate. They just love to be part of this ministry. Huckleberries was big on doing that. They said, as long as this is going to the needy, we will empty everything we can and get. That's how we started out. Now we're good about, we get a lot of different cutbacks at Kroger, and Steve Cooper is a master at what he's doing right now, and he can put together a meal and put it from scratch. I mean, from scratch, and it's awesome. It's as good a meal as anyone could put together on the table. And but he's gotten very frugal about it, and he knows how to put it together and he can saves us a lot. But that's not an issue. That has not been an issue at all. And we do ribs and, I mean, just about everything.
Hamburgers and
burgers, whatever it is. But it's good.
He's a military cook, or was a military?
He was, and he worked in other areas too. I think
he did a catering service, but I think he learned to cook for 150, in the military. So,
any more questions or comments for David and Norm?
Well, David and Norm, I just appreciate your enthusiasm and your energy to Monday after Monday night, and I know both of you have full-time jobs or did. And you have lots of obligations at Harding, but yet you show up on Monday nights, and I just appreciate you guys so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate you too. It's been great being involved in that in different areas, how it connects with World Bible School and how we reach out to people. And you mentioned Lori and Dallas Eckert. I came after they were baptized, but we've become really good friends, sort of like, I guess, adopting a family. I'm sort of adopting them, but it's been good to be associated with them. And they're doing really well, as you know, so.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you for being a good friend to them.
Mm-hmm.
I just love what David says every Monday night. We're going to do this every Monday night till Jesus comes again.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or COVID. Yeah, COVID.
Well, we do appreciate y'all, and we hope that whenever you resume that a number from our forum and those watching later will jump in, and I guess they'll just contact you if they want to join in, and you can put them to work.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They can just show up, and they won't have to worry about contact. And we got plenty of stuff to do, and they will find their niche. And if they can move around and say, well, I like this better, and whatever they go in it better, God will find that plan for them and open the door, and they'll thrive in it. I promise you. I volunteered for the dessert table, and I was denied. Johnny Mackey just threw him off of it. Said you can't be on it. So.
That's funny.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. They mentioned the original goal of this forum and the Mission Love Searcy, which is to adopt families. And I know that many of you have already reached out to an individual or family to disciple. I want to remind you about this website I've just sent out in the chat. We are still beta testing this. Hopefully we'll send it out to the whole church in the next few weeks, probably once Harding opens on that Sunday. We'll make it live for everybody. But so far, we haven't gotten any requests, which might mean that you're meeting the needs of your own disciples. But if there is a need that you need help with, I hope that you'll use this link. Or if you're someone who can meet a need, I hope you'll use this link and fill out an application so we can go ahead and begin this process of helping those who are in need. Thank you, Nick. So you just go to this page here and either click request a need for your disciple, or you volunteer to meet a particular need with this service form. It's really that easy. If you filled out a Google form before, you can do this. And even if you haven't filled out a form before, you can use this. Yes.
So go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
One other thing I would say is, out of this class, and I mentioned it about Deb and Alan Hardison, you know, they came out and just come down. Sometimes it takes some courage to talk to people, and just be a friend to them and build a relationship. You can do that very, very easily in this setting. So easy. It's just like falling off a rock in that respect. I mean, just go in and sit down and be a friend. And we don't have enough college members doing that. We have sometimes a table with 10 on it and not one college member there. Seriously, am I wrong? No. I mean, we will have, because I'll say, any of you that are, raise your hand if you're a member here at the college church, and there'll be some that'll raise their hand. Well, when they raise their hand, and I've got 150 there, and then I have, I might have 10 or 15 raise their hand, and two tables have no one at it. So you can bless someone, because all I'm going to say is, if you want a Bible study, just talk to one of these at your table that's raised their hand. And so, and I don't have anybody at some of the tables. So, and all you're going to do is direct them to someone else. And you might have a skill of, I don't know, it could be, tree trimming that you know something about. And you're sitting at a table that says, well, or a welder, or a football player, or something there, and you have something in common with someone. Well, nuzzle up over there and get in there and talk with them, and meet them where they're at. You don't have to have a prescribed, okay, I've got this set of criteria that I'm supposed to follow this list, and here's where you're at. most of you folks here have been in the scripture and studying how to go out and disciple people your whole life. It's time now to be intentional, and let's do it. Let's just go do it. It's right there. It's in front of you. And you come down the stairs and walk in our little, once we get this back going again and this plague's over with, we'll tell them what we can do. The fields are white to harvest. I mean, it's just out there. So let's do it.
Wow, you are a coach. You're a motivational speaker, all of that together. Thank you, David. The last time I visited Caring and Sharing in December, I sat at a table with Tony. And ever since then, Chris and I studied with him on Wednesday nights for about 6 months. They're very hungry, ready to hear the gospel. They're not just there for the physical food. Next week, you don't want to miss Brent Wilhite's presentation on how to disciple your children and grandchildren. He's going to talk about the Faith Path, the ministry that's been put together by the ministers at College Church, what it's all about, and some practical advice for all of us on how to disciple children. The passage that's been on my heart this week, in light of our topic, caring and sharing, comes from Luke 14:12 through 14. It says, "But Jesus said to the host who had invited him to the party, 'When you give a dinner banquet, don't invite your friends or your brothers or your relatives or rich neighbors, lest they also invite you in return, and you be repaid. But when you give a feast, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind, and you'll be blessed, because they cannot repay you. For you will be repaid at the resurrection of the just.'"
Amen. Amen.
I mean, that passage just tells me everything. Tells me about caring and sharing, tells me about how when we throw parties, we have the wrong priorities sometimes. We invite our family and our friends, when parties are all about feeding those who don't have food, and about realizing that it's not about us, it's about someone else. And I love how that final line says, you will be repaid at the resurrection of the just. I think it's saying those who maybe have withered hands, who can't shake your hand right now, those who can't walk, those who don't have the money to repay you right now, in heaven, they'll have healed hands and they'll have healed feet, and they can reward you in the way that you deserve. And of course, heaven itself is a reward for all of us. Let's close with a prayer. God, thank you so much for caring and sharing, for all of those who were involved in its formation, for those who are continuing its work today, for David and for Norm, sharing with us their vision of the future for it, and for their passion to disciple Searcy. Help us all to share in this passion and to join in this ministry and other ministries to help those who are around us. Help us not to only help those who can help us, but to really focus on those who need help. In Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you all. Thanks.